Very good evening to everyone, and a warm welcome to our parents, students, counselors, as well as our esteemed panelists to the UK and Ireland panel of our UG Virtual Symposium 2020. TNI Career Counseling is a global admissions consultant and test prep venture for undergraduate, master's, and MBA programs in India and abroad. Our initial personal one-to-one counseling with parent and child helps identify goals, personality, learning style, career values, and skill sets to help us guide the higher education outcome over time by advising on areas that need strengthening. We work with all stakeholders to make this possible. We have more than 50 advisors who are all experts in their respective fields and have graduated from top universities. They're very kind and very willing to help students that want to explore education in all sorts of areas. So let's move on to the panel. Our moderator today is Mr. Dhaval Mehta, who is the CEO and founder of TCC. He's an expert career coach with over 17 years of experience, NECAT member, Pearson certified career counselor with a certificate in college advising. He's also an alumnus of University of Michigan and Columbia University. This is the esteemed list of panels we have. We look forward to a very stimulating discussion with all of you. From ETS TOEFL, we have Sandy Bhangal, who, as an associate director for ETS Global Client Relations, has been working for 10 years for outreach and communications in the UK, Ireland, Denmark, and Norway. She has more than 20 years of experience in working with government bodies, career services, university academic departments, international offices, marketing and admissions offices, as well as graduate recruiters. From PTE Academic, we have Mr. Lijo Sam Uman, who is a regional head of sales in the South and West regions at Pearson. He has been associated with the Pearson Test of English division from its early stages. We have Ms. Shivani Bhalla from Brunel University, London, who has been working with Brunel since 9 years as the head of South Asia and manages the marketing, recruitment, and partnerships on behalf of the university. She supports activities throughout India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh. From the University of York, we have Ms. Mahima Kapoor, who started her journey with the British Council and brings with her 10 years of experience in the field of education. She works closely with schools, Indian higher education institutions, British Council, York alumnus, and other key partners to spread awareness among students and help them apply to the university. From University of Greenwich, we have Ms. Prerna Guha, who is currently working as the country manager for India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, and regional consultant for Malaysia and Indonesia. She has 13 years of experience in overseas education and counseling students with guided pathways to career. From the National College of Ireland, we have Ms. Apeksha Singh, who has the responsibility of marketing and recruiting students for National College of Ireland. In her tenure, NCI has performed magnificently in terms of student engagement and recruitment in South Asia. Prior to joining the overseas education sector, Apeksha was engaged in multiple marketing roles with the internet major Yahoo.
So many of you are aware, TOEFL IBT has recently, which is very exciting, launched the at-home edition, which is also referred to as SHE, in terms of the unprecedented times and circumstances that we're all living with, which seem to be kind of ongoing for several months. We are working very hard, very diligently to ensure that our test takers have another option, and I can proudly say that many UK and Irish universities have continued to accept it. In actual fact, we are the only English language test that's come up with another solution whereby we've got all 24 Russell Group universities accepting the special at-home edition of the test. We're launching again, in case you're not aware, the special home edition test, which we're delighted that we've had amazing support both from UK Irish institutions that are accepting it. We have all of the Russell Group universities accepting this and promoting it on their websites, and we want to continue to work with the sector, that's institutions and students, to ensure that there is student mobility, and more importantly, the institutions receiving our tests are confident in the reliability and the validity of our tests, and the fact that Indian students can take it from the comfort of their home so long as they meet the computer and environment requirements, which is really, really important. are that it's taken from home. The content remains the same, the way we mark remains the same. So the only difference is it's taken from home, and those Indian students that are not aware of what it's like in our test center environment, it has to be taken on a computer. So the security protocols mirror those that we have in place at any of our test centers. So for the student, it's very straightforward, and for the receiver of those scores, it's very straightforward as well.
So Pearson Test of English Academic, as you can see, is a computer-based language test that provides the most unbiased and secure proof of English language skills for university professionals and immigration applications. So we thrive ourselves and pride ourselves being called the most unbiased and secure proof of English language test at this point in time available in the market. We, like the other tests, test the listening, speaking, writing, and the reading, writing sessions of the, we assess the LSR, listening, speaking, reading, writing of the student. We have been accepted by the UK Home Office, and we are part of the CELT panel, which has been a big win for Pearson in the last year or so, I mean, last couple of months. So we should be soon testing, complying to all the UK requirements. We are accepted by very many and most of the universities in Ireland and so on. And unfortunately, I know these are tough times. What we've also done is we've given an alternate in terms of testing at home for students. We have the Versant English placement test, which is available. And with the lockdown restrictions moving out, we have started testing in Cochin and some other cities in India. So I'm expecting more cities to be added with the restrictions, lockdown and things opening up. So we kind of positive on the test center of testing available for students in the near future, and with the Versant English placement test, we basically cover the home-based testing too. Yeah, this is what I wanted to kind of put forward. I would surely take questions as we go by. Thank you.
I'm Shivani. I head South Asia for Brunel University, London. Yes, it's going to be the 10th year this year for me working with the university, but moreover, my relationship with Brunel started all the way back in 2008, when I actually chose to do my Masters of Corporate Brand Management at the wonderful university. It's been a great journey so far, and I think, rightly said by a lot of, the colleagues so far, that it's difficult times, testing times, but I suppose we've seen a lot of positive change come out of this, and actually I'm delighted to see colleagues from TOEFL and PT, because I often talk about that to students, but I don't have a face to a name. Now I do, so that's great. So thanks, Dhaval, again for that. So Brunel is about 50 years old. We launched in 1966. One thing that truly stands out for Brunel is it's a one London campus. So it's spread across 220 acres, and starting from all your academic facilities to your cultural and your sports facilities, everything's available on the wonderful campus with guaranteed accommodation for especially undergraduate students for all years of study. We're located in the west part of London, which is about 20 minutes from Heathrow Airport and about 35 minutes from central London. Some of the rankings you guys can see, but one particular one that I'm really proud of as an international student myself is that, Brunel was ranked the 35th most international university by Times Higher Education. I think this is something we feel true pride in, because we cater up to more than 157 nationalities across the world. And I think it's a beautiful feeling to study at a campus where you can make friends. Like when I studied, I made friends with people from so many countries, but I never had imagined I would have had the opportunity to do so. We, of course, offer placement year programs across all our undergraduate courses, and we have a dedicated careers team that helps you with the same. Some of the companies we like to show off are listed below, but we work with a range of various companies, mid and large size, and we also work with a lot of entrepreneurs. For the meritorious students, the ones who do academically really well, we're delighted to offer an International Students Excellence Scholarship, which goes up to £6,000 per year. But then you have to make sure you have a really good academic score in your grade 12.
I am Mahima Kapoor. I'm the Senior Recruitment Advisor for University of York. All right, so coming to the university, so University of York is part of the Russell Group University. So Russell Group are considered to be very prestigious set of universities in UK. There are 24 Russell Groups. So basically Russell Group consists of 24 universities. University of York is part of it, and we are among the top 5 Russell Group for our quality of teaching. This is as per National Student Satisfaction Survey. We have been also awarded as Teaching Excellence Framework Award. We are primarily known for our engineering, management, English, biology, and law programs, though we have more than 30 departments. And there are a number of scholarships available for Indian students. They are India-specific scholarships.
Talking a bit about University of Greenwich, we are very popular among Indian students, and we have been in Indian market for a very long time. As a university, we are more than 125 years old university. We were established back in 1890, and we became a university as a title in 1992. So we have 3 campuses in UK, 2 in London and 1 in Kent, and all 3 campuses has their own specialized courses. And we have, like, literally we have a widespread campus, all the 3 campuses. So none of them are building-based campus where the students are studying. So it gives you a true student experience that you get as studying with Greenwich. We have we are silver in Teaching Excellence Award. We have recently this year as well won the Queen's Anniversary Award. We are truly an international students because we have more than 140 country students studying at our university. So we are proud to say that how international and a global experience that a student gets when they study with us. We offer some excellent program catering in all departments of IT, specialization, business, and engineering.
So, okay, I work with National College of Ireland, and it's been more than 2 years now. We are located in the Dublin city, which is the capital city of Ireland, as everybody knows. And we are located in the Dublin one, which is the main area, which is called IFSC, which is International Financial Service Centre. You can also call it the Silicon Docks of Ireland. So, most of the European headquarters of all the companies are located there. So it makes it very easy for us to actually recruit students because they want to live in a city and which is filled with companies. And as Ireland is known for being an IT country, so that is what they look forward to this country for specialized courses in School of Business and Computing. When it comes to recruitment, we are the second largest recruiter from South Asia. We have started recruitment with graduates also, but we are looking forward to grow with it in the further years to come. And there are no application fees for any students to apply with us, and scholarships are offered to all the students on the basis of their academics, which we will let them know obviously in detail when they speak to us.
Students especially are really concerned about what the future holds and whether they should be dropping out a year or how do they proceed with preparing for all of this in the face of lockdown and a pandemic. So we thought that connecting these various stakeholders and having a conversation together would be the best way to go about this. So on the agenda today, we want to talk about various scenarios for international Indian students and their applications, how easing of admission requirements is happening on the side of universities and testing partners, how because of the change in the delivery of education, how blended learning, etc. is going, how online infrastructure is being built and sustained by the universities. The capacity at which universities will run considering the pandemic is a big question right now, and how universities are taking up the issue of safety on campus, as well as how online testing, whether it will continue to proceed in the same way, and how international Indian students specifically can prepare themselves better for this process.
How is fall 2020 going to turn out for admits due to COVID-19?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think I'm the best person served to answer this because I'm not a university. However, I obviously interact with universities across both the United Kingdom and Ireland, and it's without a doubt it is going to have a knock-on effect. And we're not, I know this is about international students, but we also will suffer in regards to domestic students numbers. So I think the word's challenging.
Yes.
But I think people have to learn to be resilient. I think universities, and I'm not just saying that because I represent the UK and Ireland, but I think they are really working incredibly hard to really push the boat out, to really try and get as much in terms of as much flexibility as they can to international students, and also to continue dialogue to say we do want you to come to the UK, but we are all bound, whether we're sitting in the UK or whether we're sitting in Singapore, by government regulation. but it is going to have an impact. I feel that our government have been very flexible in terms of even allowing those English language tests such as TOEFL, which has always been accepted by universities. You do not need to be a CELT. If you are coming to the UK to go and to study at degree level or above, you can come with a TOEFL. But now the flexibility has enabled students from all over the world, including obviously Indians, to come in at B1 if you're doing a pre-sessional online course at B1. So that shows the flexibility.
I think, yes, there are difficult times. I mean, I'm sure we all have different measures. Like what actually Sandy said, universities are truly working really hard to get things together. For example, something that we're doing at Brunel, we've actually set up a COVID-specific strategy group. It includes the Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Julia Buckingham, and we intend to make Brunel a COVID-secure campus. And I think, luckily, we've got a single one campus, so we've got lots of space to be able to do this for our students, to make sure social distancing norms are being phased out. Another thing that obviously Brunel is currently working on is into a dual delivery approach, where a student could transition from an online version if they're unable to travel due to travel restrictions to an on-campus learning without any hesitation or without any gap in education. I do believe that this is difficult times for all of us, but I personally feel learning can never stop, and it shouldn't. So time is a great healer, guys. We've got 4.5 months still ahead of the September intake, and rightly said, we've got lots of flexibility as far as admissions, the English language requirements. There's a lot of effort that's going in, and I think no stone would be left unturned to be able to get things back onto track. I've been watching the BBC, and I think drastically the UK government is doing a lot, to help out universities to sustain. There's lots of funding that's going out. There's lots of research funding going out. The cases are slowly decreasing. Deaths are decreasing. So I know we can kill this and conquer this. So I'm sure we will be able to do it.
So like Shivani correctly said, we are, as a university, not just York, but I'm sure all other universities are taking proper measures to make sure that safety and security is not compromised. Even the students who are still on campus, there is a special funding being announced for them, like COVID funding, to make sure to support them financially as well as take care of their safety, security, all hygiene is being maintained. Yes, this is a challenging situation. Nobody saw this coming. This caught us off guard. And immediately the classes which were designed for face-to-face learning was turned into virtual learning. But now that we are more prepared, like there are still few months, for September intake, and we all are hoping that by that time situations will be in control and we will be able to start the physical campus with keeping social distancing in place. And having said that, right now we are also developing curriculum which is going to be blended learning. So if things improve and it can be face-to-face learning, fantastic. However, we still have to be prepared for the worst. So just in case things don't change, then we may have some online classes. And of course, once things are better, students can join us on campus. Like at York, we are planning to start the campus on 28th of September, though there's a good 3-4 months time right now. So we are really hopeful that things will change. If not, then we may start another, like a blended learning. I'm sure the other universities also considering it, to start a Jan intake. There's nothing confirmed yet, but there are a lot of universities who are considering on these things as well. And there's a lot of flexibility being offered to the university, like by the universities to students, like Shivani correctly said.
Universities would want to start. They're putting the online infrastructure, and they're making sure that you have that blended learning so that they can keep up the social distancing. But would they be able to function to capacity? So suppose if you had 16,000 or 20,000 students, at this point, would you be able to get all of them together? That's the first question. Then, of course, the second question is that there's a gap between what even the university wants versus what I think the government might want, right? So I think that there are these two scenarios essentially that would play out is what I would see, correct?
Yes, like I said, university want to start the campus, but at the same time, we have to follow government regulations and we also have to keep safety and security in mind. Absolutely. So we have to prepare for both the situations, like if it's face-to-face learning or it's blended learning, and there are no compromises in terms of quality of education. UK is primarily known for the quality of education, and that is something will not get impacted whether it's blended learning or it's face-to-face learning. Yes, we do understand that a lot of times, students are not very keen on online thing, but then it's completely up to the student because we don't know for how long this situation is going to prolong. We are hopeful that this may end by this, in another few months, but what if it prolongs for a couple of months, or let's say 12 to 18 months? So it's taking a gap year. I'm not too sure how smart it is, but then it's completely up to the student. We have not stopped. Nothing is, the world won't stop, even if it's virtual or if.
So as far as undergraduate education is concerned, since you're considering 3 to 4 years, if you don't have another plan in place, it of course makes sense to use this blended learning and continue, because you don't want to be doing almost nothing. Rather, you take this model, because I feel that the universities are doing a lot.
I was saying that I think, which probably Mahima and Prerna and also Apeksha would agree, I think universities are probably, if you ask me, your question was whether we could operate full capacity. I don't think so. Because if we operate full capacity, we can't follow social distancing, and if we can't follow this social distancing, we're not COVID secure. So which kind of goes back to students to say that if you are looking at coming to the UK to study, or to Ireland to study, you need to act upon it, because we would have limited seats to offer to international students once we open up. Learning, I don't think learning should ever stop. And very rightly said, Dhaval, when you're coming into the UK for a 3 or a 4 year undergraduate degree program, you've got tremendous experience and opportunities to learn on campus. I know this is a question later on, but something what we're doing at Brunel is we're doing a Get You program, which is basically an 8-week free program for any student, whether they're going to York, Greenwich, Brunel, anywhere in the world, even if they're going to Columbia, they could take a Get You program, which is going to be a taster to what undergraduate studies is going to be like. So rather than completely wasting your time doing nothing, learning has to go on, So I think they should take it with a pinch of salt and, consider the advantages rather than the disadvantages.
When you were saying about that, how do we address so many students when they come online? Well, I just got news that we will be starting our pre-sessional online. Not yet with the regular ones. We're still hoping to do the regular one as face-to-face class. And as a university, we have decided to delay our class start of September to October, and yet to decide on the date, because we are also constantly monitoring all the aspects of it. We are also constantly monitoring all the facts which are surrounded by how we should bring the students all together at the campus. At the same point of time, we should remember the safety and security from the COVID to all the students as well. So because we all are working on that, that's the reason a lot of universities are not giving out any confirmation on dates on anything right now. And I would request the students to be just a bit patient. You require a bit more patience here, just to ensure that you get a concrete information from us. We just don't want to give you an incomplete or incorrect information. Hence, we are holding on that. And even if it goes online for a couple of universities, as they decide to do, it's always in batches. There are so many students going for one particular course. They will not be taught all together. They will always be taught in a small batch session with their tutors, just like the online classes happening with our current students right now. So yes, the teaching and the learning will constantly go on, but we are doing all kind of measures to ensure that if the intake happens. Just to add on here, that we do have a January intake, but again, as a lot of university who runs the January intake, they always run with limited courses. Like we only have one course in plan. But we are now looking at the situation. We are including more courses for January, so that we can give the best possible opportunities for students. And we are working our best on that right now.
We, National College of Ireland, at the moment has done is that, the start date was supposed to be second week of September, but as of now, we have come up with an extended start date. And we have come up with a date which is 5th of October for all the students. But again, like all of them mentioned, it is the same thing, If the situation gets worse, we have to look for something that, how is that maybe we let the students step to the next intake, or maybe nobody has an intake, but we actually come up with an arrangement where we can actually fit in the Jan intake, and nothing gets wasted. But at the moment, saying that the extended date being 5th of October, we are planning for an online-offline blend. So what will happen if everything goes according to the situations in Ireland as a country, and also in India, students have to fly out? Then what we are planning is that we divide the batches of students. Suppose there are 60 students in a class, so we are planning to have 2 or 3 batches, because no matter what, social distancing will matter a lot before anything else. So we are trying to divide the batches, and then maybe the first batch goes to the class first, and obviously there are cameras and recordings are done of the classes, and for the next classes they don't go, but the next batches go. You know what I mean? So there will be a shuffle.
Sure.
So they also stay indoors and also get the exposure from the faculty at the same time. So that is what we are in plans of. But again, like, you know, we will have to wait a couple of more weeks and see that how the situation goes accordingly.
Understand of how on-campus housing might change. You know, primarily because you know, even food is served in the dorms. So there must be, there is a considerable amount of changes also that you'd look at, right?
UK universities, we have our accommodation, as most of them are single ensuite accommodations.
Yeah.
But at undergraduate level, we do offer an option of shared accommodation, but it's a choice of the student. But we do have single accommodation available with their own washroom inside their own rooms, which they have. The only common area with a maximum 5 students sharing on that is a kitchen area. And the students cook. It's not like the dome system in US, which is there, that they do get the food served, or in India as it's there that it's a catering service. No, we don't have that. It's a cafeteria where you buy your packed food or you cook your own food. So that particular condition, at least, you know, it's not applicable for most of the UK universities that I know of.
How has the application process changed due to COVID-19? Has it changed at all? Or, you know, to an extent where, you know, you don't have exam results, for instance, right? And some exams haven't taken place. And if you're actually asking for those results and you might not get them, or you might get a different report card, how has that changed? You know, because we know in the Indian system, the board exams are supposed to be where everyone's really working hard and making sure that those grades are really good. So in case that you don't have that available, how has this application process changed in a sense? And how will it change moving forward also, knowing that things are all going online? And that there's, of course, I have that question even for Sandy, because I'm wondering, with this going online, with the IBT going online as well, have they seen a change in terms of scores, you know, for students? So are they seeing them to be where they were? Are they better? Are they worse? Is there a concern there as well?
Okay, so obviously we don't have an application process, so I'll let colleagues from the sector speak in terms of that. But in terms of our assessment, no, it will remain changed. In terms of scoring, if I understood correctly, as far as I understand from some of the UK universities I've most certainly interacted with who have received the at-home scores, they've met the requirements. The students have met the requirements. Okay. And there isn't, you know, when we speak about flexibility, most certainly our government have provided a bit more flexibility, as I mentioned before. TOEFL for pre-session or online pre-session or B1 can be accepted. However, I don't necessarily see, and colleagues in the sector can correct me, universities' entry requirements, I understand, remain unchanged, because you have to have a certain level of proficiency. And that's one thing we pride ourselves at TOEFL. Yes, we don't send hundreds and thousands of TOEFL test takers in the UK, but they are ones that meet the minimum, if not the university's English language requirements. In terms of testing,
my question was more or less one to understand from universities that, you know, maybe if they were looking at, you know, 105 or 100 on the test, if they have, you know, if they've changed that requirement a little bit or eased it, or maybe any requirements on the exam. But for TOEFL, I was just trying to understand, that is it the case that, you know, scores for students who are taking the online exam, to an extent, have you seen some of them seeing a little bit of a change in terms of what their scores are going to be? Because we saw that in some of the candidates, that in terms of how they've been taking the exam, because you might have some online, you know, with the hardware that you have, it sometimes takes time, and you might lose time somewhere, and so that's why maybe a section gets a little bit missed off. So I'm just wondering, is there any of those things that
Okay, I mean, they could possibly be. I have not been made aware of any significant changes in terms of the scores that we typically would get from Indian students that take the regular TOEFL IBT test. But we do we do run stats reports on our scores before they're released. I could find out most certainly. But if a student misses a section or there is a technical issue of any sort, they are given the opportunity to retake the test at no cost. We have made that commitment, but we very much try to encourage the student to make sure that they have checked all the requirements ahead of time, so that they've got the technology. It's not it's not onerous, the requirements, but there are some basic requirements that we have in place. But I can't really comment that it's disadvantaged students from meeting their score requirement.
Sure.
One which we have seen difference in applications when it was coming in is a lot of CBSE schools have already declared their results, and I've seen some CBSE online results as well. So I think we can still expect the CBSE results to be on time. What I'm concerned about is other state boards and other boards right now. As of now, in terms of score requirements are same, because most of the examinations have already been done before the lockdown actually happened. So it should not technically impact our results academically ideally for a student. And as far as the English proficiency result goes, at undergraduate level, we anyways do not have an extreme high requirement. We have a decent requirement of 6 with no individual bands below 5.5, and equivalent score with other TOEFL and PTE requirements as well. So we have a decent score requirement, and I don't think so university would like to go below that requirement. That's a minimum of B2 requirement is there, and we would not like to go below that for admissions. Our application process is the same. Rather, our turnaround time is faster right now.
Fact that we're doing the blended learning or the dual delivery actually gives these wonderful students that opportunity. So let's say if the exam results are delayed or the exams were delayed, so obviously the results are delayed, they don't have a deadline right now when they need to enroll onto campus. They can register themselves online, start their studies, and of course we trust all the students that whatever their predicted grades are, they're going to be near about that. So I think that's again a good initiative from UK universities, which is largely across the sector, that we'll do a dual delivery. So that gives them back the flexibility again. So I think every decision we all are taking right now is all for the students. It's all in their advantage, and it's all for their safety, security, the academic learning. And I think that's something which should be genuinely taken on board with a smile on their face.
Just a bit, I will just touch base on the IB exams, that if colleges look at the student's profile after the IB exams were cancelled, and they would just judge them on basis of the overall profile, and visa office would just need a letter from the college or university. That college or university is fine in accepting that student. So that is one update. And no change in the application process. It's just that Duolingo as an English language test is now being accepted in Ireland as a country and has been approved by the visa office.
Now, online learning and testing, maybe you all can tell us a little bit about that. How is that really taking place at the university since March, and how moving online has sort of changed for current students?
To be honest, anything new that we kind of a change is always something which we kind of feel very adhered to in the beginning. There was, I think, personally, if you ask me for Brunel, I think there were more challenges for us to get the academics together to take an online lecture versus the students. They were all geared up, they were all ready. They're hardcore, IT, specialists. But with the academics, they've actually traditioned beautifully, So I don't know, how other colleagues are doing, but touch wood, fingers crossed. We didn't have any students complain for a refund. That actually goes to show that the transition from offline to online was pretty smooth. However, having experienced that myself at Brunel, I can't take away the fact that the experience was the same, because the way you learn on campus, you really can't learn that online. But we don't have any other choice right now. So currently, right now, next week onwards, we've started with our examinations as well. And like even for TOEFL, like rightly Sandy said, we've not seen any change really. Students are honest, students are genuine. They're kind of taking this, absolutely with a positive, that this this is the way it is. I think a lot of Indian private universities have started online testing. So it's time for the world to move forward. I don't see this as a bad thing at all. And this may not be the norm for certain subjects which are lab oriented. Let's say you're studying biology or medicine or engineering. You may need to take some, lab assessments. But as far as exams are considered, I think it's fine. It's absolutely something to get adjusted to.
Currently at the university, the transition which has happened, we also had no students complaining that the classes are not going good or online they're not satisfied.
Sure.
In general as well in UK, we don't have this regular classes thing. There is a huge amount of work which the student have to do, self-work, self-study. There is a huge involvement of that as well. And there are connecting time with faculties which is there, where they actually get involved personally. So they are still doing. Our faculties are still very helpful. They are being very approachable. They are any student who approach them, they are quick to revert back to them. So they have been very nice, I would say, which is surprisingly that they are so easily right now understanding the situation and helping with the mode of changes which we are bringing up, and they're happy with everything right now.
All I would say that yes, assessment have also moved at York. Also, it's been smoothly moved to virtual. So everything is virtual right now. We have also trying to be more flexible and give extra support to our students. And because of COVID-19, if someone has been impacted or unable to submit the assignments on time, or there's something extra support that they need, university is trying their best. There is support available. There is supervisors, and there is a COVID-19 separate department right now handling such queries. They can approach those teams, and they will be given some extra time of flexibility there.
Spoke about how campus safety is being brought in as you move along.
But I think what most universities are actually doing is trying to create a COVID secure campus. Now, with at least the universities you have present today, all of us are campus universities. York has a beautiful campus. Greenwich has got a wonderful campus as well in London, and so do we.
Absolutely.
So I think that is one aspect where, like you said, we can't operate at full capacity. So that's something we will watch out on, and we will. So the first and most important thing for us as a university or as an education provider is the health and safety of the students. At Brunel, we're working on putting up a lot of 3D sanitization machines, a lot of these, tech gadgets which will boost security. I think the Tracer or the Tracker app, which has been launched in the UK, has been actually very successful in identifying if you're walking in the park, if there's someone around you who's a potential COVID, carrier. So there's a lot that we're doing as a university. Of course, I certainly feel, and I mean, this is something which as a student myself, a couple of years back, I feel, if you're expecting we're going to have these, big nightclub parties with 1,000 students in there, that's not going to happen. So even the social aspect, it has to be cut short a bit. But it's all a process. I think as soon as University of Oxford is working really hard in getting the vaccine.
The WHO's scientist yesterday, Swaminathan, who spoke yesterday, she actually spoke about the fact that we could possibly not even have a vaccine.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a possibility we won't have a vaccine, just like influenza doesn't have one, and you just have a therapy and that just gets better over time.
Absolutely.
So we have to learn how to live with this.
Small example, and I think this is for the young ones really, and I truly regular times right now. So let's say if it's my mommy, we have a slight bit of a cold and a cough, we're ready to take a flight, get on, do our work, we're really exhausting ourselves. What's important now is we cannot do that, and we shouldn't. So if you're not feeling well, and if it's even a tad bit of it, stay in your room on campus, take the class online. I think that's the beauty of a blended learning. You don't miss out on the class that day. You don't still have to exert yourself to go. So there's obviously your own well-being, your own health aspect. I think I was sharing with, I don't know, you or someone else the other day, that even me, I mean, I would kind of step out, maybe get into the car, go somewhere to the shops, come back. I would not necessarily use a soap to wash my hands. That's pretty basic. And I feel quite silly saying this now. I should have been doing that. But, so there's just basic stuff that we should be doing. And I think campuses are working really hard to get all of that together, to educating, all of us.
What I've been seeing is also, campuses, to an extent, workplaces that I'm seeing right now are actually asking, for an antibody test, before you can start work. That's also one possible way of actually allowing, or knowing who's actually positive or not. Also making sure that they get the right help, etc. So I think that there's a lot of things that others are doing to make this make this more achievable for all of us, to be able to live in the new normal. What do you think Indian international students can do to better prepare themselves, for this journey now?
I think one thing that they could do, I can recommend from our end, is, irrespective of which university you intend to go to in the UK or in the world, take a starter program. I mean, I know Brunel's doing it. I'm sure some of my other colleagues are doing it. So that Dhaval would give you a taster of how online learning would be, right? And
Right.
that will be able to enable, and also rather than sitting around right now and not constructively using your time, try to do some online learning, learn a language. There's a lot that they could do. Try to brighten up your CV as much as you can, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help you get jobs once you graduate.
Even if these students study online for a few months and then they join the campus, irrespective of that, they are applicable to apply for graduate immigration route, which is basically 2 years stay back option. So they don't really have to start online learning. And secondly, I just want to highlight that even York is offering free online courses right now. So right now that students are in lockdown in India, so they may want to use that time and register for these free online courses. This will just give them an idea how the test and just a taste of what international education may look like online. So I would really encourage them to go ahead and register for it. Like everybody else, York is also trying to make it COVID secure campus with all the regulations and everything in place. There is a possibility even when they come on campus. So when we are talking about blended learning, see, like you correctly said, we may not be able to operate in 20,000 or 25,000 numbers what we were running earlier. So there is a possibility there may be blended classes. So even when they are on campus, if it's a class size is big for that particular lecture, it may be online. If the class size is small, it may be keeping the social distancing norm in place. We will have that face-to-face class.
Adding more skill sets, take more courses. And it's wonderful to know that some of the universities are also providing free courses.
You guys are young, you guys have the time, you know what you want to do. Think with more clarity, which can help you to understand is in what field is the best thing to go. How will that particular degree help you to develop further? Because these are some questions which at times we ask when you are planning for your admission and even applying for visas. And if you are having a better clarity on this, it will definitely help you to improve on how you should take and which degree you should take and how you should take the degree. UK has always been a country offering a wide range of specialization courses and a sandwich year degree courses, which is more again the blended thing. It's not only the online and on-campus blended, but it's also the blended in terms of practical aspects which we add on to our degrees at undergraduate level. I understand that bachelor students require a bit more hand-holding, and they always get a individual tutor. I think this is one service which all the UK universities have, is the individual tutor service. So students do not have to, or parents do not have to be concerned that even if they are getting a blended of online and campus classes, they are missing out on any kind of help from the faculty. No, with their individual tutors, they are available anytime to access and take assistance and take help from them. So it is a great opportunity to do online certificate course. Make up your mind to go, and definitely universities are there to help you out, and we are supporting you in all ways possible.
And I think at this point, what I would just do is, talk about briefly about what we, do to the, in terms of our services. I could talk to the parents and the students present. Is that for us, it's important that we have this whole experience, the journey covered. So for us, helping the student build a plan, so a plan creation, advising them on academics in terms of what areas that they would really like to choose, and giving them admission insights. Helping them understand, how to build the college list, how to build their story, also, select an area, with their essays, their LORs. So we actually do work with counselors of schools as well. That's where we come in as well here. And, visa and college specific or any interview questions, we are there for that. We are also tied up for ticketing and any loans that you need to take. So for ticketing, we are tied up with FCM Travels, and with the loan, we have HDFC Credila as well as Credence. We also help with summer school applications, shortlisting the programs also, and test prep coaching. So we have tutors who provide, who are again trained and certified as well. We've been, we are ETS partners as well. The tutors would provide them, the experience or the test preparation they require. And we also provide any extracurricular support for short courses or Trinity, coaching or YCM. So that's a little about us. Lovely. Thank you so much. I think this has been a very enlightening session, I think, so far.